And I was it. I'm a crier, so y'all just bear with me. God has been so good to me. When I was young, I didn't even know the basics of the Lord. I had no idea who Jesus was, and I wasn't raised in church. I was born into a family of witchcraft, and just the enemy had a grip and had infiltrated my life very, very early on. As I got older, I began to experience the world as much as I could, and I dove into alcoholism, drugs, just every addiction you could think of. By the time I was 17, I was addicted to methamphetamines, and I started a long 7-year drag of addiction to anything I could get my hands on. I was 5 years actively in prostitution. I was very suicidal. I was depressed. I was diagnosed with depression, anxiety, PTSD from so much abuse. I only knew abuse. I thought that my identity was what people told me who I was, and that was not the truth. When I was 24, I was in a hotel room, and I was in a very bad situation for a long time. I was probably held in that hotel room for about a month at least. And I heard a voice speak to me, and he said, "Pray to me." And I'd never heard that voice before, and I heard a lot of voices. So I said, "God, if that's you, if you get me out of this situation, I'll give you my life." It was the next day that I overdosed, and I ended up in detox. And from there, I came here. And it was at that small little church over there that I got on my knees, and I seen all these women worshiping, and I had no idea what that was. And I got on my knees, and I said, "Lord, change me. If you're real, change me." And he gave me a vision, and it was beautiful. And
yes.
In this vision, after I got born again, I had a vision. I was in this room, and it was all metal around. I knew I had done something really bad, and I was chained to this chair. I was awaiting to be executed in my vision. And my family and my friends kept coming to visit me. And every time they'd come and visit me, I'd wait for them to unlock me and take me with them, and they'd say, "No, I don't have the key for you." And visitations would happen, and finally, on the last visitation, my mother came, and she kissed me on the forehead, and she said, "I love you." And I knew it was the last time I would see her. And I said, "Well, take me with you." And she said, "I don't have the key. I love you, but I don't have what you need." So she left, and when she turned her back and she walked out of that room, the room began to fill up with water and darkness, just darkness and water. And I knew that I was about to take my last breath, and the water filled up to my chin, and I gasped for air, and the last gasp that I had, I said the name Jesus. And when I did, the waters parted and light came in, and Jesus came to me, and he held me chest to chest. And he said, "Today is the day that the enemy intended to take your life and take you straight to hell, but on this day I give it back to you. What will you do with this life I've given you?" And he took a key out of his cloak, and he unshackled me. And that's what he's done for me ever since. He set me free. He took my feet and put me on a rock. He's put me in a high place. He has just delivered me from so much, and he's a lover of my soul. He is everything to me. And ever since that day, I have just been showered with his love. He is a faithful, faithful Father, and he'll take you out of any situation that you're facing. He's the God over our circumstances, and he's been everything to me. So I've just been seeking him ever since, and he has taken me from glory to glory and given me a life I didn't even know I deserved or I could have. And he's just been so good to me. So I just wanted to share that there is hope even to the situations that seem so hopeless, because I'm standing here today. So thank you so much. I have almost 3 years now, so.
Amen. But only God, amen?
Amen.
But God.
Only do it.
With God, all things are possible. Michelle? Hallelujah. Hallelujah. God, it's so good. So good.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I actually different than Jory. I grew up in a church home. My dad was actually a minister. We were at church all the time. But I learned later on that just because you live in a house where they have relationships with God doesn't mean that you have a relationship with God. You have to have it on your own. I had a child young, and then he was born sick, and I got into meth. 6 years I was on meth. I ended up having 3 more children with that, so 4 kids. It got really bad after my last one, and I wound up being kicked out of my house. My parents took temporary custody of my children. At that point, I'm sorry, I'm a crier too. I thought my life was over. So I ended up in jail. And I actually, when I was in jail, I prayed and I read my Bible, but it wasn't till after that I came here. And I thought, well, you know what, God? If I never get my family back, I'll still serve you. I had a really strained relationship with my dad, with my kids. I mean, I had lost them, but my parents were very supportive while I was here. And they came to visit every time they could. They brought the kids. But while I was here, I grew closer and closer to him. And coming back, when I walked in this room, you could just feel the Holy Spirit all over this place. And just reminds me of how good he is and how he can bring it all back to you 10 times more than you ever had. As of now, I live back at home with my family. I, as of last October, got back full custody of all 4 of my children. I have an awesome job, and I will have been clean for 4 years in December.
Amen.
You know, it's real good that she was able to do this because she's probably been one of the quietest clients we've ever had. For her to come up here had to be tough. I appreciate it.
I want everybody to know what God has done for me. When I went through chastity a few months ago, and while I was there, God spoke to me and said, "Do you think you went through all this for nothing? Share your story." And I've been praying for God to open those doors, and he has.
God is so good. He is just so good. Thank you, Jesus. Let me take one. Go ahead. Come on up. Mary Beth, come on. Hallelujah.
Hi, my name is Mary Beth. 14 years ago tomorrow, I set foot on this property.
Wow. Yes.
I set foot on the property. An introvert who hated people, hated me and hugged, hated life. I was a felon. I was arrested for embezzlement. I was looking at 10 years in white-collar prison. Luckily, I only got probation. It was hard setting foot on this property, being the person that I was. I grew up in church. Church was in my backyard. We were there every time the doors were open. I mean, if they were painting walls, we were there, kind of thing. I knew where God's house was. I just could never find the key to get in or find the door. I walked away from God because of anger of myself. I've been in abusive relationships. I was an alcoholic. I did drugs, started cutting at the age of 13, suicide. I did whatever I had to do to get those drugs. So when I set foot here, I didn't think I was going to make it here. The first night I was here, I got hugged by a red-headed lady who found out I didn't like to be hugged, so all she did was hug me. That's all she did. But anyway, I didn't think God was there for me. I had walked away from him. I had turned my back on him. You know, I was like, you're not helping me get where I am going to get where I'm going to be. And one night, I had been here in January, I was here. I was in the church across the way. This one wasn't built yet. And the doors were always open so we could go in at any time. And it was just me. And like I said, I was an angry person. So I let my anger fly to God. I called him every name I could think of. I was not a very nice person to God at that time. Just letting it all out because I was tired. I had just given my one and only child up for adoption. She was 7. My parents adopted her. I was sick, couldn't get a job. I felt I was just a nothing. So I was in the church screaming at God, fussing at God. And before it got redone, there used to be this huge pulpit. And I used to sit behind that pulpit all the time and look at the mural of the woman at the well. And I had never truly felt God's presence. Like I said, I grew up in church. I was there all the time. And I just said, I want my daddy, because I'm a daddy's girl. Then all of a sudden the room went quiet and peaceful, and I felt 2 loving arms come up behind me and just hug me. And then I lost it and I started crying. I think I cried like 30 years worth of tears that day. And I said, okay, God, you know what? My life is yours. Did it get better right away? No. But it did improve. I learned that not to tell Granny that you will not work at McDonald's because you have a college education and you're not asking anybody for more fries or that. My first job was drive-through at McDonald's. She sits me down and she's like, I got a job for you. And I went, it's McDonald's, isn't it? She went, yep.
I got a great cry.
Well, she broke it. I was there for about 2 months, hated every minute of it. And she called me back in her office and she said, is your pride broken? Yeah, it's not there. It's gone. She goes, good, put your notice in and come work for me. So I came on as a driver. Also during that time, like I said, I was dealing with the adoption of my daughter, and I was dealing with the fact that I never wanted to be married again. I never wanted to have that relationship. Because if I put my hands in it, it all went to, just went somewhere. So one day I told God, I said, if you're going to find me somebody, you have to pick him. And one of the girls told me that basically he has to sit him in Granny's lap and say, this is Mary Beth's husband. That was the thing. Well, lo and behold. My life did start improving once I started giving it all to God. He showed me love. He showed me his love. He showed me love through Granny. But from someone who had been beaten, who had been raped, who had been abused, you don't know if you can ever find that love again. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm not, because this is really a key part of my testimony. While I was here, Miss Matchmaker, right here, introduced me to my husband. And he, it was someone who I never thought I deserved because he was a good, godly Christian man. Well, he still is. But, he still is. But,
If he wasn't, he wouldn't be in her life.
that's right. He worked on the property, and I worked on the property, and we were computer people, so we did computers. And then all of a sudden, we started going to the food bank together with other women. He would drive a van out. All of a sudden, we just kind of started being around each other. Couldn't figure out why. But we got married on the property right over there. The way we did our relationship is we talked on the phone from April until July, because I wasn't through with the program yet. Even though I was on staff, I was still in the program. And I had got mandated longer than the 6 months because I got arrested while in the program. Yes. Went to court, did not come home that day. So I was mandated longer. So I had to wait. We officially could not have a date. But God put it in our hearts to do it the way we did it. We talked from April to July about 2 hours a day. And then we did stuff with the ministry. We always had a chaperone with us. We were never alone. We were always, somebody was with us because we wanted to set an example to the women that were here. And our first date was July 7th of 2007. We got engaged in August, started marriage counseling in August. And if you've not had marriage counseling with Granny, I recommend it. If you're getting married, 4.5 months of marriage counseling once a week for 2 hours. Yes. And the first time we had marriage counseling, my husband, loving husband of 12 years, looked at me and told me I had the neck of a camel. And if you don't know where that is, it's from Song of Solomon. But I didn't know where that was. So I wasn't happy they were back. But in that we still, because I was still working, even though I was graduate, I still worked for Granny. I was dorm mom, case manager. We were only allowed to go out one day a week and every other weekend, because the other times I was working. We still only went to a public place. Walmart was our date night. We literally walked around Walmart. And we only held hands and we side hugged. And in that 4.5 months, he learned a lot about me, and I learned a lot about him. And December 7th of 2007, we got married over there, and we had our first kiss at the altar. And that was the first time we were ever alone, was when we left here.
Wow.
We did it that way, and like I said before, I gave my daughter up for adoption. Even though my parents had adopted her, I was still somewhat in her life. I wasn't in her life as much as I wanted to, because we ended up moving to Ohio. But God has come forward in all of this, because once you give your life to Him, He doesn't just say, okay, you're mine, I'm going to go over here and work with somebody else. He works everything. My daughter, who I had given up for adoption, had no hope of hardly ever getting back, moved up to Ohio with us a year ago and has been with us for a year. We were told we couldn't have any more children. And that was kind of devastating to me, because I wanted one more child and my husband had never had a child. Lo and behold, proved the doctors wrong, and we are now parents to a 9-year-old. And her name is Hadessa Sharon, of course Sharon being Granny, and Hadessa being Esther's name in the book of Esther before she became Esther. And she likes to tell people that her 2 names, both of them saved the women, saved the people they were told to save. Esther saved her people, and Granny saved the women. And that's a testimony I have with her saying that. Because you're looking, like I said, guys, you're looking at somebody who hated people so much, who hated themselves so much, who didn't even like to be hugged by this woman at all. I would run if she came to try to hug me. To, okay, now I like some people. And everything, but I give God total glory. I wouldn't be here. I would be in hell right now, because that was where I was headed. My parents were picking out my grave. They were picking out my clothes. They were planning my funeral before I set foot on this property. And now I have the restoration of my family. I have the restoration of God. And God used here to do it. And if some of you guys are new, this is like your first time here, stick with it. It's hard. It is so hard. It's hard having to sit in the front row. It's hard having to be in church 13 times. My pastor tells me you guys are in church more than he is. And he's a pastor. So, but just stick with it and know that everyone is here is rooting for you guys. And I'm rooting for you too. I may be 8 hours away, but if I can do it, you guys can do it.
Hallelujah. I just want to give everyone else that's just came in hope.
Amen.
That it does happen, and lives are changed. But it takes that relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ. And we'll give just one more testimony, and then we'll go back to our visiting. Let's do this. Tanya. God said Tanya.
Oh, wow. Wow, this is a shock. It's hard for me to speak in front of people, too.
and I'm a crier. So, I grew up, when I was a little girl, I grew up with all my family. My dad apparently is atheist. My mom was a Christian. It was hard growing up because you could tell that my house was divided. He cussed and he drank. But my mom and my brothers and sisters were always in church. So about 12 years old, my uncle passed away, which was my mom's best friend. And I mean, our family took a turn for the worst. She quit going to church. And that's when Satan came in and completely took over our home. And I started, I was into boys, and I lost my virginity when I was 12. I started drinking when I was like 15. And then I got really heavy into boys. I was trying to fill this void. I got pregnant when I was 17, in abusive relationships at 17. I started meth when I was 17. So here now, my life has just been all about me, what I wanted to do, when I wanted to do it. My mom pretty much raised my kids. I don't have custody of either one of them. I have 4. And it's still hard. I haven't seen them in over a year. And that's still hard for me to deal with. But I know God is faithful. And I know if He did it one time, He'll do it again. So I came here in September of 2015, and I did a year program. I worked for the ministry, and then I had reservations. I got mixed up with a guy from my past who I did use with, and next thing I know, I got in trouble and I left. I went back home. I relapsed. I guess I was here for 19 months and then left. And then I relapsed. I was gone for 5 months. I came back October 2017. I did another year program. And now I'm here.
So this month is 2 years clean time.
Yes. October 16th, I'll be clean 2 years. I'm content here. I don't want to go back. I know what I went through when I relapsed scared me to death. And I know that's a healthy fear that God gave me. I don't ever want to go back. If I go back, I probably will kill myself because that's where I was at. The torment was crazy. So, I'm just trying to do my best. I'm trying to walk it out. I'm trying to find that relationship that I thought I had with the Lord, but each day it gets a little better, it gets stronger with Him. So I'm just one day at a time.
You know, we had Emily came Sunday and gave her testimony. How many heard Emily's testimony? Because we worked an exit plan with Emily, which is what we do. If they leave here before working an exit plan, they don't always make it. So it's working an exit plan before they leave. And Emily had it in writing, we had it in writing. We had her parents come in, it was all agreed upon, and she was going to continue to work that exit plan, which is continuing care. And in that exit plan, one of the things was there'd be no social media for at least a year. Well, she graduated years ago and she still is not on Facebook. And that's after years. What is the first thing you did? How did you connect with him?
Facebook. Messenger.
Messenger and Facebook. It'll happen every time.
Every time.
Every time. So it has to stop. So that's why when they go on their passes, we're just doing family counseling right now. Go ahead and sit down, baby. Thank you. When they go on their passes, that's why we tell you they cannot get on a computer, they cannot use a cell phone unless you dial the number and you know it's who they're talking to. They can't just talk to anybody. Because meth, if it's meth, it's 1.5 to 2 years before the brain cells even begin to repair. 1.5 to 2 years. Now, if they start using drugs at the age of 12, and they've been using drugs and they're 30, they still got the mind of a 12-year-old. No brain cells have grown. So if you get upset with them and can't figure out why they're acting so childish, don't give in to them. Okay? Make them grow up. You're still working with a child. Is what you're doing. I know sometimes the staff would get upset and they'll say something about a client and they'll say, she's been here 3 months and she's still not grabbing hold of anything. I said, number one, how far did she get in school and was she special needs? Number two, what was her drug of choice? Well, she used meth. Well, you can't expect a whole lot those first few months because that's where their mind is at. That's where it's at. And then they'll turn around, and I've heard some say, well, they need mental health drugs. No, they don't need mental health drugs. What for? Most of the time, those mental health drugs just mask what's really going on. And then we can work with it. So we just have to work it that way. I'm saying sometimes, every once in a while, there may be 1 out of 30 that's on mental health drugs that might actually need it, 1 out of 30. But most of the time, it doesn't happen. And if they'll get 2 years with nothing, then their brain cells and everything begin to fall in line, begin to grow, the synapses gap straightens out, the receptors, the endorphins, all start straightening out, but it's not going to happen overnight. So if you come, and this is your first visit with your child, wife, whatever the case may be, and they're not lining up with what you think, remember, it's not been that long. Their mind is still messed up. Right. So it takes a while. It's going to take a while. Sometimes they think, well, I've got a month clean time, I'm ready to go. That's called the bud. At 30 days, yeah, you're ready to go get high again. That's all. Or drunk, or whatever the case may be. It's a 30-day mark, it happens. That's why we have you sign that commitment. Because it does happen. The court said. Well, let me ask you this. Does anybody have any questions? Well, all of our graduates that are here, please stand right now. Look around. Let's give them out. Thank you. It's awesome to see all of you today. So just continue to go forward. That's what it's all about. But does anybody have any questions for any of these graduates about anything? Because every one of these graduates, this is what I want. Graduates, come up here and stand up here in the front. Just stand up here in the front. How many times, Dory, did you want to leave when you first got here?
Every day.
Every day. Be honest. I mean, some of them think, you know.
Well, I did feel safe, so I didn't want to really want to leave every day, but I did, it's about, I bet after the first 3 months, I really wanted to leave. Then about 3 months later, I contemplated leaving, and then right before I graduated, I contemplated leaving.
That's the bud period. We could hand that out, Ricky. The bud, the 3, the 6, the 12 month happens every time. Every time. So you're just normal. She really is normal, honey. She really is. I'm telling her husband that, okay? She's not normal. Okay, how about you? How many times did you want to?
Every day for the first 6 months.
No, that's right.
Every time I face conflict or a trigger from the time I was 6 months until I graduated.
Let me ask you this, and raise your hand. What is the toughest thing you ever had to go through while you were here at New Beginnings? Raise your hand. Dory?
Living with 100 women.
Amen. Amen.
I've tried for 21 years, almost 22, okay? What is it?
What I did wrong. Inner healing.
Inner healing was the toughest. Admitting it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
it can be. Yes, Christy. The life story was that how many up here can agree that life story is tough? Amen.
Randy, you threatened to not marry me at my wedding
Even
2
before
weeks
their
before.
ceremony.
You were not performing the ceremony. I didn't write mine, and my husband said he would not marry me if I didn't write mine.
Yeah, see? That's where it started, was way back then. She was the first rebellious one that didn't want to write it, okay? And that was when? What year?
2007.
2007. Okay, 12 years ago. She didn't want to write her to Steve. So.
I agreed with Granny.
Yeah, I know. You did good.
Smart man.
So the last story was...
Sometimes.
Michelle, what was the hardest part for you?
Well, we had family counseling with you one time, and you had me look in the mirror and tell myself that I loved myself. Forgiving myself was the hardest part. And so I remember for like a month, I had to look in the mirror every day and say this whole thing about how I loved myself and forgave myself, and that was the hardest part.
Yeah, I think forgiving themselves is probably the hardest on all of it. Tara, what was the hardest part for you, sweetheart,
When I was
when you were in the program?
being a million miles away from my kids, my grandkids.
Yeah, I remember that and how you struggled with it.
It was good though because I learned, I worried about my kids a lot, and I learned how to let them go and give them to God and trust that He would take care of them, and He did.
And it built your faith.
I'm sorry.
It built your faith as
Yeah,
well.
it
And it made you stronger in the Lord.
And I can still today, I mean, my son, he's 16, he's driving a car, and that fear sets in again, and I can let him go and know that God's going to take care of him. I got that here. So,
Hallelujah. Tracy, get started. What was the toughest part for you? Go ahead and tell it.
Me being surrendering.
Surrendering. What month were you in before you finally? Because we've been talking about surrendering lately, right, ladies?
About the 11th hour.
About the 11th hour. Yeah. She's being honest. She's being honest. It was near the end of her program before she could finally decide she was going to let it go. And she fought. I mean, she would not stay in here.
Yeah.
And when she completed, she definitely was going to be gone. But she didn't leave before then. Okay. And how long ago did you graduate, sweetheart?
January the 31st.
January 31st, and she is in our transitional house until this time. Getting closer to the Lord. She didn't start her program until she completed in January. And that's when her program started. Jennifer, you just got up here. Tell me, what year did you graduate?
I can't remember, Granny.
You can't remember?
2017, somewhere around in there.
Yeah, it's been a long time now. And she ministers, does jail ministry and stuff, and shares the gospel. Yeah, Tony, you graduated too. Go ahead.
Mary Beth, why don't you tell these girls what you think has been the hardest part about after you have left the ministry?
Oh, gosh. Losing that time with God that you have. Because when you're here, especially when you first get here, I mean, you're in it. I think we figured it out one time. It was like 27 times a week. That's counting church and Bible study, is when you're in the Word there, but then you're in the Word, hopefully, you're in the Word when you're by yourself, you know? But leaving, you get into the, okay, I'm home. If you have children, I have to take care of my children. Okay, you have to have a job. If you're able, if you have to work, you have to work. So you end up losing that time. And it's really easy, and I mean, I'm guilty for it, taking that time and putting it on the back burner because you have so many other things that you have to take care of. You have so many things that you've been gone away from your family for so long and you want to spend as much time as you can with them. But it's that time with God. You know, I miss the quietness of being able to get into the Word. And I try. Is my time how I want it to be when I was here? No, of course not, because you have to learn to adapt. It's losing the time with God, and it's also keeping yourself from going back to where you were before you came here. I left 8 hours. I moved 8 hours away. A couple months after probably 6 months after I left the program. Not because I can get alcohol anywhere. So, you know, I wasn't doing that. But I had to distance myself. And some of the people you have to distance yourself from, unfortunately, is your family. And that's the hardest part. The hardest part is thinking, oh, I'm out, I'm good, you know, I'm fresh. I can go back to doing, I can watch the same stuff I used to watch. I can listen to the same music I used to listen to. I can go to the same places because I'm good. I have a year. No. Devil's going to get that foothold, and he's going to drag you back.
And I'll tell you straight up that I could always tell when she had not had her quiet time with God, and I could always tell when she was watching things that had previously been a trigger for her, because her personality would change.
And that's
when
what
you get out of here, you have got to watch that. You've got to take control of that.
And like I said, if you have to walk away from your family, it's hard to walk away from your family. But you have to take care of you. And you have to have that relationship with God, because just because grandma prays or just because blah, 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 that's not going to get you into heaven. Okay? Your relationship with God's going to get you into heaven. Your relationship with God, like Granny said when she first stood up here, she found Jesus and she didn't need it anymore. And that, you know, that's what I wish everyone would have. And she always used to tell us, I don't know if you still say this or not, and I'll quit talking here in a minute, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll go back to this again.
The easiest thing, I'll end it at this. The easiest thing is stopping doing drugs and alcohol and walk away. The hardest thing is figuring out why you started it in the first place and healing that.
That's right.
And once you heal that and stay strong to God, you're going to make it.
And that's why we have you write your life stories. There's reasons behind it. Something you're trying to cover up. And that's what it takes. But anyway, I hope you all have enjoyed the time and listening to them. And we've got another one that just came in. Where'd she disappear? Julie, what year did you graduate?
2013.
2013?
Yes.
And she lives off the property further away, and she still comes to church and prayer meeting and everything here on the property. And we love seeing her and her precious children. And she's doing awesome. So we give God the glory. Amen. Because it's all God. It's all God. So we thank Him for it. We'll go ahead and pray and dismiss? Annette, would you pray and dismiss us?
Father, I just thank you so much for all that you've given each and every one of us through your son Jesus, and through this program, through your work, through the people that you have released from bondages, Father God, that you still are manifesting yourself to us and showing us daily, Father, just how great you are, Father. Help us ever keep our eyes on you, Father. Help each and every one of the graduates just continue to press forward and growing in you from glory to glory, Father. And all of those that are new in the program and the families related to them, Father, help them find their way and know that they grab a hold of you with everything they got, that you won't let them down, Father. That you'll hold on to them, that you'll go before them and behind them with your hand upon them, Father God, and you'll hold them up. You'll prop them up on that leaning side, Father. When they think they can't go on, you'll be the one that helps them to continue on if they just grab onto you, Father. I just thank you so much for us being able to have fellowship today, Father. Thank you for all your many blessings on us in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you, Annette. Thank you for being patient with us as we